Hello, I'm Lori Burkhart-Frank. Thank you for joining me for this special Women's History segment of Nevada County Now, where we are exploring the lives of women around our community who they themselves are making history. I'd like to introduce you to my special guest, Pamela Rasada. And Pamela has served 26 years as a nonpartisan public servant. Her life's work has been focused on assisting individuals and communities to thrive. And she's used her skills to found the San Juan Ridge Community Coalition, a collaborative of county offices, NGO services, and Ridge residents. She was named Nevada County Trailblazer of the Year for March 2025, and she's been recently appointed to the Nevada County Adult and Family Services Commission, September 25. So welcome, Pamela. So good to have you here. And I want to start with, while we're here, about women's history. And is there a woman in history that you really look up to?
You know, it's interesting. I've been thinking about that because I sort of anticipated that question. And the reality is I look up to all women. Honestly, what we've gone through over the last 200 years alone shows an incredible resilience, perseverance, and the strength of women everywhere, right? For so long, we were taught that we had to compete with each other in order to get along and actually survive in the world. And so the reality that women are starting to come together and support each other, I admire all women that are getting up and that are doing it. That said, there's a small group of women up on the ridge that I find particularly resilient, particularly creative, and particularly good at troubleshooting. And these are the women that I worked with when I was starting the coalition to find out what's needed up there. What do the people really want? What does the community want? I knew how to generate resources, but it's not my job to tell a community what they want. So I depended on women like Shannon Snow and Judy Arbuckle and Heather Frost, and Sue Hoke, our county supervisor, worked with me quite a bit. Sue Bauer, Rachel Stewart, Hope Oswell, Rachel Farrell, Renee Renoir, Kristen Snell. There's just so many women up there that are already working really hard to help the community up there. And all I did was create a path that gave them direct access to some resources that they hadn't been able to generate before. And so those women, I truly look up to those.
That's wonderful. And that's what we started off the program saying. There's so many local women that are amazing. Well, you've been done so many things, but at the beginning of your career, you were very involved in nonpartisan work.
Yes.
And involved in a lot of different projects. So what does that look like? What kind of work did you do?
Well, it depends on what era of my life, if you will. Yes, Swifty here. Before going into public policy, I had the incredible good fortune to work for a company called the Russ Reed Company in Pasadena. And there I learned how to raise money. I learned by working for companies like World Vision and St. Jude Children's Hospital, Habitat for Humanity, raising money on a grand scale. And I was very fortunate. They allowed me to work through many departments. So I have experience with direct mail, with television production. We used to do the television shows you would see late at night on World Vision, right? Help the children. And I also got to do radio. So that gave me a really good background that kind of allowed me to slide right in to my legislative work and be seen as someone who could right away start helping out, right? Because I already had some PR experience. And so that led me into the legislative career. And that's where I really feel like I was able to really, what's the word I'm looking for? To really find what I had been looking for, to really create that life's work. When I was in college, every scholarship application I ever wrote said the same thing, that I wanted to get out there in the world as an RN and a public health nurse and create a series of rural clinics that mixed healthcare with mental health care and really just started to spread that throughout the areas that are lacking in health services. And while working in the legislature, I had the opportunity to work on so much legislation that helped create pathways for that to happen. But I also learned a lot about the fact that counties, though they're amazing entities and they do have quite a bit of staff, they don't always have enough, especially in a county like Nevada County that is so broad and with such vast expanses of land between our rural areas. Sometimes getting out to all those areas can be difficult. So when I moved up to North San Juan, I was getting ready to retire. COVID had happened. We were allowed to work from home constantly. So a few years ago, I moved up to North San Juan and immediately saw that while there was a lot of good things going on, there were some services that could be a little more present. And I knew from writing some of the regulations and legislation where they were, and that all I really needed to do was create a space and reach out to the county and let them know, hey, I know you can't always be here on your own. Brick and mortar stuff in rural areas is tough, but if I create spaces, will you help me fill them?
Amazing, Pamela, because I can see that Trailblazer Award. I mean, you are a trailblazer. And so this question might not even be relevant. I wrote it before I was talking to you, but reading your bio and background, you come across as such a lifelong learner. And is there any subject that you've not embraced, or what draws you to a particular topic? Because there's so many different topics, from veterans work to mold and indoor air quality, substance abuse, mental health, and you did talk a little bit about the mental health and the public health aspect. But is there any topic that you said, no, I don't want to learn about that?
No. I see them all as very broad public health issues, right?
Oh.
Indoor environments, outdoor environments, that's public health.
Yeah.
If we were in here and breathing things that were toxic to our health, that would be problematic over time. Even wildfire work, right? One of the things that I worked on back in the day was a report related to mold and indoor air quality, and that gave me the incredible good fortune to work with some of the best building scientists across the country. And so I met some really incredible people. We literally built 5 homes using resources from the California Energy Commission to try to find the best way to build that would reduce mold and indoor moisture. Well, that put me in touch with these folks. So when the wildfires started happening here, and I started recognizing that, I know wildfire smoke is toxic. Everything's in there, and it's tiny. And you breathe that into your lungs, it'll just settle into your organs. How can we help the people up here? So I reached out to some of the guys that I knew, and they talked to me about, the $300 air cleaners are great, but you can do the same thing with a box fan and a MERV 13 filter taped to it.
Wow.
Turn that on in a room and it'll clear the air. So during seasons when there's lots of smoke or lots of issues with the air, close down your house, get yourself a couple of box fans with some MERV 13 or higher filters on them, and that's going to filter out all the particulate matter and keep your family safe.
The passion comes through in everything. So obviously there is no topic. So what motivates you?
Growing up, life got spicy, as it did for a lot of our families in the 70s, right? Divorce was really catching on, challenges were happening, and my family was not immune to that. And when that split happened, this was during a time in the 70s when women couldn't get car insurance. They couldn't get credit. They couldn't get an apartment without a man's signature. So it made things really hard. And there weren't a lot of the public services then, I'm 62, that there are now. And there was a lot of struggle that there didn't have to be. With just a little bit of a leg up, people can accomplish so much. And that taught me, growing up that way, that there's got to be a better way. Right? I remember going through the lunch line at school. We always qualified for free lunches, right? Back then, they gave you a ticket. The tray they gave you was a different color, and you had to stand in a different line.
Wow.
Yeah. I wanted to see that change. I wanted to see us be more concerned about people's mental well-being as well as their physical well-being. One of the projects I worked on actually truly made that connection, a program called ACEs Aware. It was created by Nadine Burke-Harris, incredible woman who was the first Surgeon General for the state of California. In fact, she was the first Surgeon General that any state in the United States had. And one of the incredibly huge gifts that she brought to California was the ACEs Aware program. And I had the incredible good fortune of working on that program and doing a lot of the research for the maternal health child section. And in a nutshell, if I may, ACEs Aware is about helping clinicians to understand that our mental health, specifically the things that happen to us as children, ACEs stands for Adverse Childhood Experiences. Those things that happen to us, that long-term ongoing stress and abuse that can cause what we now know as complex PTSD. PTSD is caused by a single act. Complex PTSD is caused by ongoing abuse. And what that can do is cause the body to excrete excess cortisol. All that stress, constantly being in fight or flight mode, releases a lot of excess cortisol. And that starts burying itself in your body. And later in life, it shows up as cardiac issues or kidney issues. And if doctors don't know that mental health can impact our physical health in this way, treatment isn't as good. I can personally speak to this. When 2 years ago, I ended up in our wonderful Sierra Nevada Memorial
Very
Hospital
wonderful.
after a cardiac event, and the cardiologist, thank goodness, was ACEs aware. And during our work together, he started asking me the 10-question ACEs aware questionnaire. With 10 simple questions, we can determine how likely it is, right? The higher your score. And so, I kind of smiled at him, and he says, I know this doesn't seem like cardiology, but trust me, this is good. And I said, no, I actually helped develop the program that questionnaire works for. I'm a 9 out of 10. And he looked me in the eye right then and said, your heart is healthy. Your cardiovascular system is really healthy. I can't find anything except anxiety. And that came from your childhood.
Wow.
And you need to get a handle on that, because if you don't, the next one's going to be a heart attack that will kill you.
That's amazing.
Have you ever known anyone that died suddenly? They were so healthy.
Yes.
How could that be?
Wow, and I've learned a little bit about the ACEs program, but I'm learning something new right now. So thank you, Pamela.
That's probably, for me, that and the work I did on mold and indoor air quality and the work I did on hepatitis C. Okay, there's lots of things I did that I'm just so grateful.
Well, and you're tying it all together, because that's what I was going to ask you about, is how do you tie it all together? But
it's all public health.
That is
it's
amazing.
all going to help people to thrive.
Well, what does it mean to be a woman in today's world?
That's a complicated one, isn't it? Because I want to believe at 62, I've certainly seen us come a long way, right? It's not like it was anymore. Lord knows we can get credit now. They mail us things all the time inviting us to have credit. Yet, interestingly, we're still struggling to get that recognition for our successes, aren't we? Look at what happened recently with the hockey teams.
Mm-hmm, definitely.
Right? The men's hockey team revered, rightly so, after finally winning a gold medal in hockey after all these years. Roo-rah! Go, male hockey players. But then to kind of weirdly downplay the female achievement when, honestly, females carry the Olympics for us. 9 out of the 12 medals were won by females this year. Our female hockey team has medaled every year since they've existed. And to kind of downplay that felt icky. I want to still celebrate that male win, absolutely. Yet it kind of tainted their win too, didn't it? So it's just unfortunate that we're still dealing with that.
Yeah, and it just seems like it should go away, but it's...
One would hope, but it's difficult, right? Even as women, we were taught so not that long ago that we had to compete with each other in order to thrive. And it's hard for some women to let that go, right? For whatever reason. Generational trauma is real. And for some of us, it's harder than others. And we're getting there, right? I've got a whole circle of women around me that I know are very supportive. And I know a lot of other women do too. Gosh, just look at Taylor Swift, talk about supportive. But there's still those, right? I've had a foot put in front of me before by a woman, right? It happens.
It does.
So it's just one of those things that we're still working towards change, right?
Absolutely. And what's one thing about you that most people don't know that you're willing to share?
Most people, except for a very few that used to see me perform, don't know that I was once a blues and jazz singer that fronted a band that played all over California and into a couple of other states. And I actually sang in front of a crowd of 40,000 people.
40,000 people. That's a stadium.
It was a stadium.
It
was fun. It was a couple of songs. It wasn't our whole set, but it was fun.
That's great. Well, there is also something I found that information you sent to me, so I think I can share it. But you're also a Lakota sun dancer?
I am.
So could you tell me a little bit about that? Because that fascinates me.
First, I want to be very clear. My bloodline is not Lakota. My bloodline is with the Aguas Calientes tribe in Mexico, Jalisco, Mexico, where we just had a lot of issues in Mexico. Yet my path led me away from that, right? My grandfather migrated here from Mexico and kind of wanted to turn his back on those roots and become an American. So we didn't get a lot of connection to those indigenous roots, but it called to me anyway. And somehow, through good karma, or however you want to call it, across my path came a Lakota chief, Chief Golden Light Eagle. And back in 2009, I attended my first Sundance and loved the community, moved back into the South Dakota area, Iowa area for a while to really immerse myself in the studies because I hadn't had the benefit of growing up in that culture. And I now dance with Chief Red Feather. We have a small Sundance here in California. He's also going to be leading a Sundance in Wisconsin later this year, so I'll be going there. And it's just one of the things that I do to help myself stay on track, right? It's a good disciplinary practice. It reminds me what's important. A Sundancer's job is to show up at that ceremony and pray for the people for 4 days. It's a commitment that we look to as a way of painting the future for our community. And so the goal is to be in a good way over the 4 days of ceremony, to be strong, to pray hard, so that the people can have a good year moving forward.
Wow, that's amazing, Pamela. Well, I want to thank you, Pamela, for being on the show today and sharing your story with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for watching this special Women's History segment of Nevada County Now. Make sure to check out our other interviews. Our community is full of amazing women like Pamela.